Hi there. Welcome to Conversations, where we seek to advance your leader and team excellence by discussing relevant topics that impact today's organizations. Welcome to the show. Hey there, leader, and welcome to Conversations for Leaders and Teams, where today we have Dr. Emory Welch, who will be talking to us about the importance of focus. Dr. Emory was born and raised in Florida and began his career as a clinician back in the 80s and quickly moved to administration. He spent several years as a behavioral health care administrator, serving as a CEO for nearly 20 years. Emory was recruited to Alaska, which is a long way from Florida, to help implement the behavioral health care system for the interior tribal community. From that point on, Emory fell in love with consulting and coaching, which he has been engaged with now since 2013. Dr. Emory Welch, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, great, Kelly. Thanks so much for having me. And hey, right on cue, my phone rang.
There we go.
During the intro, just to remind me, hey, turn your sound off on your phone.
Hey, we keep it real around here.
I was thinking, oh, that's perfect. Yeah, just ring away there.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
Boy.
We get dings, email dings and text dings, and it's all good. No worries.
It's the sound's off now, so
Okay.
I'm good to go.
Awesome. And your sound is on perfectly. So good. Hey, I the whole jump from Florida to Alaska, that's a whole long way to go. So do you prefer Alaska weather or do you prefer Florida weather?
You know, growing up in Florida, I can stand the weather. Just heat and humidity all the time. Make the joke about, hey, Florida has two seasons, January and summer.
That's true.
Yeah. And I love the snow. I love the cold weather. And how I ended up in Alaska, I think it was destiny, and I only got to spend a year and a half there. Mm-hmm. But I really feel like it was destiny, and we went right to the center of the interior of Alaska. So it was, the 40 below, 50 below, and I was out in the villages, and it was quite surreal and wonderful. So I would have to say that I would take the Alaska weather over Florida.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so where are you coming to us from today?
I'm in North Carolina. I live in North Carolina. And I have actually, since we came back from Alaska, we had a house in the mountains in North Carolina since 2004 or so. And coming back from Alaska, our house in Florida was rented out to some friends of ours. So we couldn't go back to it. And so we just came to North Carolina and pulled in here. And then we've been here ever since.
Wow, that's a beautiful place as well. North Carolina.
It is, and it's as far as the climate goes, it's very mild. It doesn't get really, especially in the mountains, it's not hot. Now we're back and forth between kind of Charlotte and the mountains now. So with Charlotte, of course, it gets really hot. But yeah, it's good. It's wonderful.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, today we are going to be talking about focus. And as I told you before we started, I have lots of paper so I can take notes on focus. At times I have shiny object syndrome. But it's okay because you're here and you're going to be helping leaders and teams today really hone in on focus and the importance of that. So let's start off right there. So why is focus so important?
You know, when I was, it's kind of interesting. So I was in grad school and I developed a real interest in motivation. Mm. And I started reading, Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you've heard of Napoleon Hill. Maybe you have. He wrote The
Yes.
Laws of Success. It's a big old book like that. But he also wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich, which is much smaller, which I like the much smaller books for my reading. But anyway, he talks about, he calls it a definite chief aim. But how having a definite chief aim and being able to narrow your focus was essential to really making progress and accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish or what you thought you wanted to accomplish. But whatever it was, being able to develop that and understand how to kind of narrow that, almost like you're putting a magnifying glass. You know, you can
Yes.
put the magnifying glass on something and expand it, but you also intensify it. You know, like when we were kids and we'd use that magnifying glass and
Yes.
we put it down there and start a fire with it, pretty much.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I just actually just thought of that. That's how focus works when you think
Really
about it.
lasering in on it.
Yes, because you direct your it enhances intensity.
Mm.
And when you're super focused, and you and I are kind of joking about it earlier, but before we came on, but when you're super focused, everything around you, all distractions seem to magically disappear,
Yes.
whether you want them to or not. And so I think that the focus is absolutely essential, personally and from a business perspective and from a leadership perspective. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a nutritionist, and I kind of get into that too, but I'm certainly not a nutritionist, but he is, and he was telling me that they have their latest research shows that if they promote one small change, I'm going to make something up here. So let's say you're seeing a nutritionist, and the nutritionist says, "Hey, this is all I want you to do. You just need to drink 4 glasses of water a day." And they promote that one small change for 30 days. Their success rate in their overall plan ends up being in the high 90 percentile, 97, 98%, something like that. But if they try 2 corrective actions at the same time, their success rate drops to like 65%. If they try,
That's a big difference.
yeah, it's huge. If they try 3, it drops all the way down to 30%.
Wow.
And what's interesting to me is, so I said, could you just say, "Hey, look, change your breakfast"? And my friend said, "No, because if you say, let's say this person is, I'm going to pick a bad, let's say they're having Pop-Tarts for breakfast."
Yum.
Yes. And I said, "Okay, that's me, right? Pop-Tart." But let's say you're having Pop-Tarts for breakfast. And you say, "Okay, no, I don't want you to do that. You need to have eggs and fruit and water." This is coming off the top of my head. I don't, if that's good or not. But the point was, he was telling me, is now you've asked him to make a bunch of changes. It changes how they shop. It changes how they have to prepare. It changes what they're doing, their action of cooking, the whole 9 yards. So that are just saying change your breakfast and giving them a plan for that would reduce their success rate down to below 30%.
Jeez. Yeah, and we
And
could take that into all areas of our life, like you were saying, personal and professional. And with leadership, they're usually juggling so many different tasks, different projects and whatnot. So how can leaders really laser in? What might be a strategy to help them with that focus?
Well, coaching is great for that now that you bring it up.
There we go.
And I'm serious, really. Coaching is a great way to help a leader or anybody to determine what their focus should be and hone in on it. I was I'm not a big. Are you an NBA fan?
No.
Okay, I don't know. So I'm not really an NBA fan. I'm more of a college guy, but in Lakeland, when the Orlando Magic came to be, I started watching the Orlando Magic, and I had a chance to go over and see a couple of the games. And back in the day, they had a player. His name was Dennis Scott, and his nickname was 3D. So you can imagine why they nicknamed him 3D. He was one of the best three-point shooters in the league.
Okay. I wouldn't have gotten that without
Oh,
that
yeah.
hint. So
So,
thank you.
all right. So for those of you who are not interested in basketball or don't know a lot about it, a three-point shot is a shot that takes place from way out from the rim. So around the big perimeter. So they're very far away and they're shooting. And that's why they get 3 points if the shot goes in instead of 2 points, because it's a very difficult shot. And so if you're one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA, that means you're basically one of the best three-point shooters in the world. You would agree with that, right?
Yes.
And I happened to be at the game. I was over in Orlando for something else, and I went into the arena probably 3 hours before the game started. And they actually let me in. I don't know why. So I went, and I was the only one sitting in the stands. And I was thinking, well, yeah, okay, I'm going to just sit and do some work. But interestingly, Dennis Scott, this is totally true. Dennis Scott came out into the arena with a coach. And now this guy's already one of the best three-point shooters in the world. And he's out with a coach. And what are they doing? He's shooting three-point shots. And what was interesting to me is the coach faced him, not the basket. And I was watching, and his shots almost always swished. They almost always went in. The coach wasn't even concerned about that. He didn't know if the shots were going in or not. He was looking at Dennis, and he was helping Dennis make minute changes in the way that his release was happening, in the way that he was coming down from his jump, how basically how his arms are, how his fingers are, and he was focusing on those minute details so that when he got into the game, it wouldn't matter what the defense was doing or who was coming at him, that Dennis would know what to concentrate on so the shot would go in.
Yeah, that's good right there.
And that, I'm telling you, that made a huge impact on me, because I'm thinking, this guy's already one of the best in the whole world. And he's out like 2.5 hours. He's the only one out on the court. And the coach is helping him to focus in, basically intensify all those that little detail that would help him to accomplish his goal of hitting that shot.
Yeah. And I love that connection to, professional coaching, because we do, as coaches, number one, all good coaches have a coach, because we don't walk this journey alone. And how, as you said, coaching, as we know, is coming alongside of somebody. And so just like the story that you just told, the coach was there to help. I mean, he wasn't necessarily doing the work just like as a coach, we don't do the work for our clients. but we are there to guide them and to be looking at those things that maybe need to be just tweaked just a little bit for them to be successful.
Yeah, boy, Kelly, that's an excellent point because, I'm thinking about it. I don't even know if that coach could hit a 3-point shot,
Mm-hmm.
but he knew how to help Dennis to focus on it, on what he needed to focus on.
Yeah.
And it's almost like if I go in and I'm coaching the COO of a software company,
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell him anything about software or help him with anything about software because I don't know.
That's
I
right.
don't have any idea. But what I can help him with is how he develops as an executive,
Mm-hmm.
so that he can be as effective as he can be, as he can be as an individual and also leading his team. Because it's interesting when we think about it. It's one thing about so individual focus. We have total control over that, but we don't have total control over group focus.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an essential component of anything that we want to accomplish. That pretty much comes from Henry Ford. But so the group, if you're I want to use the COO. So you're the COO and you have your executive team, and you've got to make sure that the focus is common,
Mm-hmm.
right? That everybody has that same focus, but it's hard because you don't really know. It's interesting. I've been coaching on many levels for most of my life. So I was thinking about, I was coaching a little kids football team. I think they were 8-year-olds. And we had gone through the whole season undefeated. And we got to, yeah. That's how good of a coach I am, by the way. So we got to the last game. And so we're all gathered around before the last game, and we're undefeated at that point. And I'm telling them, I'm going to do I'm going to do my motivation talk here. And so I get them all together. Everybody's down on one knee. I'm out there. You rock me. And I'm telling them, hey, you know what? You guys have an opportunity to accomplish something truly special. And that's an undefeated season. And I will guarantee you that if you win this game and you finish this season undefeated, it's going to be a memory that you're going to have for the rest of your life, because very few people get to have an undefeated season or get to be a part of an undefeated season at all in their, if you go on to play in high school or college or pro, regardless of the level, it's very difficult and it's a special thing. So I want you to make sure that you focus intensely on your job, your responsibility, every play. I'm telling you, Kelly, I had them in the palm of my hands right there. And when I was finished, I was pretty proud of myself, actually. When I was finished with that motivational talk, pregame talk, one of the kids in the raised his hand. I can't remember the kid's name now. That was like 40 years ago. One of the kids raised his hand, and I called on him. Yeah, question. And he said, "Yeah, coach. Who's bringing snack today?"
What's important?
I was thinking about that, like, oh boy, these were a group of 8-year-old kids. Obviously, what I was focused on and what they were focused on was very different. And now that is maybe not a very good analogy because as
Well, it is. It's yes. Well, everything that we learned in children, we bring forward with us. Is that not true?
that's true. But and so hopefully, as we work with our executive teams, we're not that far apart. They're not going to ask us, "Hey, who's bringing snack today?" but
That's right.
but but
That's right.
even minute differences can can mean the difference between achievement and not achieving a goal, in how we bring everybody together. So as leaders, we can have intense focus and it can be on the right thing, but we also need to bring our team so that we have something called group focus,
Yeah. How do
like
we do that?
Ford would have had. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I said, how do we do that? How do we bring the group together? So, as a leader, obviously we have teams under us, and so when I think about a leader and really having the ability to bring their team along with them, what might be some areas to guide them on their focus, shared focus?
Well, that's a great question, and the answer to that is not an easy one, because I think what has to happen is that is a it's well that's a soft skill that's developed in a person. Um, so I might, for instance, somebody could walk in a room and Kelly, you may be able to say, well, that person's had a bad day, or this person is tense, and I may be oblivious to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be able to develop that, what would be an intuitive or soft skill. Um, and part of how you do that is you're basically developing that skill through asking yourself the right questions, um, and being able to ask yourself the right questions so that your focus helps your intuition.
Mm.
And then when we get together and we're talking about, it's almost like when I know the folks that go through the strategic planning, right? I know everybody knows about strategic planning,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you have it facilitated. I've facilitated a bunch of them. And we go through this whole thing. Hey, we get the mission statement, the vision statement. We're this nice little brochure, and we've done our strategic plan. And then what we find with a lot of organizations is they use it for marketing, and
Yes.
if we go back to the people that are supposed to be carrying it out, they don't remember what's in it.
That's right.
Okay. So what we would need to do as leaders is, I'm just using this as a jumping off point,
Mm-hmm.
the strategic plan, is we would need to take that plan and basically one or two components of that, which would make the difference in our organization's growth, or not growth, it wouldn't necessarily be growth, but what it could be growth, it could be percentage of achievement, whatever. And take that and talk about, hey, how do we all make that happen together? And just ask the individual members. So what do you think, if you had to pick one thing to focus on and concentrate on, what would it be?
Yeah. That
And
goes
then
back to
don't
the
let them answer.
nutritionist story that you told. about the whole, working on too many things and the same thing. And that is where so many organizations fail, is they have this grand strategic plan of all the things they want to accomplish. And then, at the end of the year, end of 3, 5 years or whatnot, it's like, okay, well, what really did we get done? What did we accomplish? And was it something that we focused on? Or, did it happen organically? But I believe that, yes, too many times organizations bite off more than they can chew, instead of really bringing that focus in, like you're talking about, having everybody on the same page of what is important for our team to work on. That's all the time we have for today. Tune in next time for part 2 of Focus with Dr. Emory Welch. Until next time, this is Dr. Kelly Whalen. Keep doing great things, because our world needs leaders like you.